Legacy Maker, the All Sports
The
Network.
place is here and the time is now. Let's take it round for round. And people gather round. Let's see who can win the crown. All the marbles involved. Football, baseball, or golf. Who's dominating the hoops? Who's talking false or the truth? Yeah, come and show me your war face. I'll show you my war face. No holds barred, so for your sake, you better show up in good shape. Valuable information is key to your domination. So focus on preparation. Online is your reputation. Yeah, it's one-on-one. You and me, ain't no fear in me. You will see. When it comes to this, you'll be wearing the number 23. In debate, I hold my weight, cause these sports I'm attached to it. Your legacy, get ready, cause I'm gonna set a match to it. Hey. Burn 'em, fire, 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 burn 'em. Fire, 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 burn 'em. Fire, 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 legacy on fire, 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 burn 'em. Fire, 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 legacy on fire, 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 burn 'em. Fire, 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 legacy on fire.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 62 of Legacy on Fire on the Legacy Maker Sports Network and, of course, airing on Bowie Television. Well, look, we'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We've got a fun one for you because we're talking free agency, and that's pretty much what we're talking about. So if you're thinking this is a normal episode, you don't see the buzzer, well, look, just for show purposes, she here, but she won't be making an appearance tonight because we got a lot to get into. There's a lot of free agency moves that have happened. There's some guys that below me that are probably not so happy the way free agency has went for them so far. I got a man to the right of me who's like, hey, I got a quarterback now. What is going on here? And then you got myself who is saying, I just lost one of my best friends, but somehow semi-friend. I don't know. But there's a lot. And then I gained a new friend. There's a lot going on. But I'm Darrell Owens, Legacy Maker Sports Network. Of course, with me as always, I got my co-host, Mr. James Brown. How you doing today, sir?
I like it, man. I like that. I feel good. I can't wait to get into this week's episodes.
All right. Below me, a man that's feeling the $83-85 million deep in the pocket right now. Got to get out of that debt. Mr. Lamonte Thomas, how we doing, brother?
I feel like I don't know if you ever heard the Bruno Mars song. Is it what's the name that he said? Is it Madeline? When he said she ran away with all my money. That's how I feel.
That's how you feel?
He ran away with all my money.
Sorry, brother. I'm sorry that all the money is gone. I'm sorry all the money is gone. But, you know, things are going to change. I mean, we'll see. We're going to go ahead and get this thing started. Normally we do topics and we have our ones. Look, we're going to do one sentence today because this one was just too easy to pass up for myself. And then after that, we're going to get into free agency. Let's go ahead and start with one sentence. Now, I'm guessing the video played because I'm having technical difficulties. So the all right, I knew it was in there somewhere. All right, our one sentence today has to do with potential United States vice presidential independent nominee Aaron Rodgers. Now, fellas, this one's a doozy. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the son of the great politician Robert F. Kennedy, is running for president. And in that choice of presidency, he brought out a short list the other day. He said, on my short list, I have Jesse the Body Ventura, which, hey, look, people may think Jesse the Body is a little erratic, but he was the governor of Minnesota. And guess what? For 4 years, he ran Minnesota. So he has some executive type branch, stuff. He has it under his belt, per se. Now, the other gentleman, I know I'm frozen, but if you can still hear me, we're going to keep going. Now, the other gentleman, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, that is not the case. And Aaron doesn't have that experience, but he is on the short list. I showed you the picture. They've hung out. They went hiking together. They're like best friends. He's a really big component of what Robert F. Kennedy has going on. And if you're not looking at Trump, and like there's not politics, we just had to get this in there. It's like, if you're not a Trump person, and you're not a Biden person, there's Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or you can just vote for yourself as a write-in. You do whatever you need to do. But fellas, James, I'll start with you first. One sentence on Aaron Rodgers, the potential next vice president of the United States.
Man, I'd have to say, is we politicking or is we playing ball? Like, which one is it? Like, bro, pick a side, pick a struggle. Ever since you've gotten to New York, you've done everything else except play football. Now, granted, you had the Achilles injury, lost the season, and you didn't play this year. The Jets suck per usual. But now you recovered from this Achilles injury. Miraculously, you possibly could have played at the end of last season. Then we found out, that was kind of just some fluff to get the guys going, keep the spirits high. And now you get a chance to rehab, go into the offseason, and come back next year focused and ready to go. And somehow you end up on a short list to be vice president. It's like, bro, you can't even run the Jets. How you gonna be vice president?
How does that work?
Every single move you vouched or made for as a Jet has blown up in smoke. How you gonna be vice president? You can't even vice president the Jets. Like, bro, what we doing?
What are we doing? What are we doing? Lamont, I'm heading to you. One sentence on potential VP candidate for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Aaron Charles Rodgers.
I gotta say, it's gonna be watch the blitz, man. Watch the blitz, because again, where's his experience, right? Like, that's a big jump, and I guess, politics has set a precedent here where it can be a popularity race. So I understand thinking you're gonna win, but my thing is, how much do you care about the people that are your constituents if you're taking a job with no experience? That's all I can think about. It's kind of scary. And then for him to be attached to a Kennedy, I think it only sparks more controversy, right? Because if you look at the Kennedys and then their long history, well, I know you're a politician history. There's a lot of scandals in there. I know probably know about Ted, the senator.
I know Ted.
The dude literally had a woman fly in his car in the middle of his campaign, right? Like, it's just scary. Like, but I'll tell you this: it makes for a lot of articles waiting to happen. I'll put it that way.
Touche. Look, I don't know, y'all, if this actually is going to happen. I think Jesse the Body has a better shot before Aaron does, and I think maybe he just said it because he's trying to get a little bit of interest in his campaign right now when you got the other two just kind of up there. So I don't know. The Jets are not thrilled about it. I can tell you that much.
Probably not, but just picture this. It's a press conference at the White House. Rodgers is supposed to be up speaking, and he's late to the podium. And the question, where's Vice President Rodgers? Where's Vice President Rodgers? And then someone comes out, the Vice President will not be joining us today. He's still coming down from an ayahuasca trip, and he won't be available.
Right.
Like, come, bro, you gonna be Vice President of the country when you over here sipping tea and boo-booing on yourself. We don't need that in the White House.
He just got back.
We may have already had some of that. We don't need no more of that.
I think he's still in Costa Rica. As we speak. So
that might be why he signed up for this. The ayahuasca. It's the ayahuasca.
Vice President Rodgers potential, maybe. We'll see, right? It's only gonna make for an interesting season.
Gets in the Oval Office.
Better get some State Farm for that.
That's all. We just had to kind of get that one out the way before we get into free agency, because that to me is hilarious. I just saw it and I couldn't even believe it when I saw it. But then again, I'm like, we are talking about Aaron Rodgers here, so it is what it is. Now we're skipping the fire starters today. We're skipping the fire starters today and heading straight into the main. All right, so once again, I'm hoping that the video played, but NFL free agency is hot right now. It has been probably one of the. I think every year we're beginning to say it gets wilder and wilder. And then it decided to play. All right. So, like I was saying, NFL free agency has gotten crazier, crazier, and crazier each year. And this year has not disappointed whatsoever. We're deep into it. We're going on to day 4 of the free agency. And so, fellas, I kind of just want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on free agency? How things have been going so far. And who do you think won free agency? So I'll start with you, Lamont. So far, who do you think has won free agency?
James. Toast,
Maybe.
brother.
Okay.
Let's
I must have
Can you hear me?
disappeared for a hot minute. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I was over there talking my head off. I was like, yeah.
Are we back?
We back.
No, but
so go ahead, Lamont.
I have to say, I have to say the Falcons, man. I really like it. Like in terms of the big moves being made. When we did preseason predictions last year, I said I felt like they were one piece away. And to me, that's a huge piece, right? Kirk going to Atlanta, it makes sense. It fits, right? I saw the interview with SVP. They asked him, what made you decide Atlanta? And he said that Mike Shanahan a long time ago told him when he was in Washington that the best way you win a Super Bowl is for your quarterback, head coach, GM, and your owner to be on the same page. If all 4 of those pieces aren't on the same page, then you have a link in the chain that is keeping you from heading to the top. And he said this move made the most sense to me. And so, man, I gotta agree. I gotta be like, man, they had all the pieces in place before. They just needed time to piece it together, and they needed somebody to head the reins. And you can see they're happy to have him. He's happy to be there. I'm excited to see this team play.
All right, James. How you feeling on this, brother?
I mean, definitely, man. I agree with LT. I do like Kirko chains coming to Atlanta. Big Kirko's in the building. We got Cole's cash on deck because we gave him the actual bag. It feels good, man, to have hopefully that quarterback position solidified with a guy for the next 2 to 3 years that we know can at least help us win a division, make the playoffs, and possibly win some playoff games in Atlanta. You're talking about an organization that hasn't made the playoffs since 2017, and now they look prime, ready to go to return there this upcoming season. So I definitely like the moves that Atlanta's made, bringing in a Kirk Cousins, adding a Darnell Mooney, adding a few more receivers and a couple extra pieces. But one team that I really like what they did, and part of it's because their roster was already good, and somehow, some way, they just keep finding ways to add pieces. And that's the Philadelphia Eagles. This was a team who, just a season ago was in the Super Bowl. They had a slip up this past season, with losing their coordinators and trying to figure that thing out now that Jalen's been paid and having the Super Bowl hangover. But again, we saw this all season. GM Howie Roseman, I don't know how he does this, but he was able to add a Saquon Barkley after losing a DeAndre Swift. So you upgraded at your running back position. Then not only that, you went out on the defensive side. You signed a Bryce Huff away from the New York Jets to add to that pass rush you already had. Losing Fletcher Cox, big. Losing Jason Kelce, big. You re-up with Landon Dickerson to possibly take over at that center position of the future. You bring back a Brandon Graham. And while we were on the show, I just saw they signed Devin White, the linebacker from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you can now argue that the Philadelphia Eagles, Devin White. Devin White's going to Philly. It happened while we were doing the last segment. Devin White.
While I was freezing up.
1 year deal. 1 year deal, $7.5 million. Devin White to the Eagles. So again, I don't know how Howie Roseman does it, but year after year, season after season, he's paying these people and then somehow still finding money to bring in more pieces. I mean, I don't know how he does. It should be studied. Like if you're a GM trying to figure out how to do it right, take a page out of Howie Roseman's playbook, because somehow, some way, year in and year out, he makes their roster competitive. He's able to add pieces, and he's able to pay his guys. I don't know how he does it, but the man works miracles.
How did he convince Devin White to take a 1 year deal for 7.5?
$7.5 million.
Who was that,
You said?
Lamont?
Do they have Reddick still?
Yes, I
Hassan
believe.
Reddick technically
have
is
Hassan
still on
Reddick
the
still?
Eagles.
Yes, I think he's
Reddick's
still there.
He hasn't been released or traded yet, so he's still there.
He's still there. But every time we
And
say
that's
something like
another
that, they
piece
get,
that they could move to get more picks to then
yeah.
add to the roster they already have. So, like, I don't know how he does it, but, like, it's amazing, man. You got a Saquon Barkley upgrade. You got Devin White to upgrade your linebacking core.
They brought
You add
C.J.
Bryce
Gardner-Johnson
Huff.
back.
See, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow they get Xavier Howard at this point or some other cornerback. I know Kendall Fuller is off the market to Miami, but I wouldn't be surprised to make another move.
Oh my goodness! So I did not expect that. So congratulations to Philly. They continue to find ways to look good. For me, all right. So this was tough for me, but my pick comes from the AFC South. Now I really, really wanted to pick the Texans. Love the trade for Joe Mixon. I thought, hey, that's a good job there. You bring in Joe Mixon, you get you a really good running back who can catch out the backfield. He's just a good running back. And no slight on Singletary, because Singletary had a really good year. He signed with the Giants. It's gonna be good for him. I think that he'll do. Giants got a little good deal there. They didn't have to spend as much money on him. But Joe Mixon being there is going to be great. They picked up Okuda. From you guys, I think that he's kind of coming along. Tim Settle, who was with Washington, with Buffalo, that's a nice little pickup for them. I like some of the things they did there. That's cool. But then I'm going to read the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars list is insane. All right, so first you got Mac Jones. Okay, you bring Mac Jones in. He's not expected to start. You got him as your backup quarterback. But hey, guess what? If your Trevor Lawrence go down, you got a Pro Bowl quarterback waiting in the wings who's still young, and we don't know if he's done yet. Maybe he just wasn't the Patriot way. So then you got Mac Jones. They bring in Gabe Davis. From Buffalo, who at times when he's healthy has been really good for Buffalo. Duvernay, they bring in Duvernay from the Ravens, who's done some really good things in the kickoff return game. That'll be nice. They brought in Mitch Morse, who was a All Pro Bowler, for Buffalo. Another, Eric Armstead. They brought in Eric Armstead today from the 49ers, 3-year deal, $51 million. They bring in Ronald Darby, who's a solid veteran. And then they took my guy that I wasn't thrilled about, Darnell Savage from Green Bay. This is like the second year that Jacksonville's had a really good offseason. I mean, we know they picked up Kurt. I don't know if it was year before last or year before, but they've done really good. And I'm starting to wonder, where's Jacksonville getting all this money from? Because they just finished paying Josh Allen and locking him up. So I'm just like, watch out for Jacksonville. But can they bring it all together as what's gonna be the ultimate deal? Because the AFC South has somehow gotten better from being probably, in most people's opinion, the worst division in football to becoming one of the best or one of the most solid divisions in football, because they battled all year long. The Colts, the Jags, and the Texans were all in the mix towards the end. So for me, I'm going with Jacksonville, but I like what they've done so far. Now, will it translate to wins? We'll see. Next, before we go into, as we deep dive into others, the team that you feel like it hasn't done well in this free agent period, and James, I'll start with you. Who do you feel like hasn't done well during this free agency period?
It's pretty low hanging fruit, but I think you gotta choose the Denver Broncos, man. You're $85 million in the hole. You've lost your starting quarterback. You don't have a real plan at quarterback going into the next season. You pick 12th in the first round, so you got to hope that either a quarterback falls down the board or that you're somehow able to scrounge some picks together to trade up to get a quarterback. But then you realize, oh, wait, we don't have our picks from the Russell Wilson trade still, I believe. So it's like, what can Denver really do at this point to boost their roster to be able to compete? You traded away Jerry Jeudy. Looks like Cortland Sutton maybe next. He may not want to be there anymore. It's where are you headed if you're the Denver Broncos? Due to having that large cap hit, I don't think they're really able to bring in people this offseason to compete. So it's like you're looking at possibly a down year in Denver, to where Sean Payton's just, trying to hold everything together, praying that he gets another year.
Lamont, we head to you. And I don't know if you're going to say Denver or not, but who do you think is struggling right now in this offseason? Who's not putting things together?
Well, first by saying that I think James is completely right when it comes to Denver. It's a money issue, And even though they freed up about half of that space, on day 1 and day 2, it's not enticing to go to Denver right now, right? They don't have an identity. There's no plan. It doesn't look like, hey, this is a complete rebuild where, people are buying in. That's not what this organization looks like. It looks like they're still trying to figure it out. And this is not where you want to be, especially in a division that's getting better by the day. So I will agree with that. The team that I think that I felt should have done better is the Minnesota Vikings. I feel like just the same as Atlanta won, free agency. You look at Minnesota and it's like, okay, you pick what are they picking? Like 11th or 12th or something like that.
I think in
Minnesota's 11th.
11th, right? Yeah. So I mean, you same boat, right? Like you're hoping a quarterback falls down to you. And then what I was really looking for, I was looking for them to get better on the defensive side, and they did have a few signings, but nobody that I liked really well. Like again, you lose a Daniel Hunter to the Texans, which huge, right? It was probably one of the biggest defensive free agents I was looking at. I feel like, the man had a really, really quiet year on a defense that didn't do as well, but man, he himself had a great year. And he goes to the Texans, I believe, right? The Texans, and that was just huge for me. I think they did have a couple signings, but I'm like, where do you go from here? Because if your defense is worse and you lose your quarterback, what side of the ball are you getting better on, right? And so while you have a Justin Jefferson there, obviously, getting the bag, like where do you go from here, right? I even saw talks about they were talking about a rumor started with Justin Jefferson was like, well, he's not there anymore. He might go back to the Bengals and join Jamar Chase and the Bengals so they can reunite once again. And I'm like, I don't know what Minnesota has left. Again, just like Denver, where's your identity? Like, who are you enticing and how are you enticing them to come there? I just don't see it in Minnesota.
See that, and that's
they did get Jones.
They did get Aaron Jones. I know it stings. I know it stings. I know it stings.
Hold on. I need
to take a deep breath, man. Just take a deep breath.
I should have warned you.
Look, you should have warned me a little bit when it still hurts. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. What the heck is bothering me? Like all I know is Aaron Jones, I love you, brother. Like that's all I can say. Don't do us too bad next year. I expect at least 200-yard games both times. He's coming out for River. He did not want to go. I'm gonna say this real quick. He did not want to go. Last time I spoke, at the Super Bowl week, during media day, he was out there. That's why I got a chance to meet him. Even if for a couple of seconds, I got a chance to meet him. I talked to his brother, Alvin, for quite a bit. And his brother, Alvin, was adamant. He said, we want to be Packers. Like he said it, like we want to be with the Packers for life. He said that he was a Packer. He wanted to be a Packer. That's who he loves. He wants to be in Green Bay. He didn't want to play anywhere else. And I asked him a couple of years ago, I said, man, I was a little nervous. I thought y'all were going to go to Miami. He was like, nah. He said Miami was the second choice just in case everything fell apart. He said there was no way we were leaving Green Bay. He felt that way this time. And then they were feeling that way up until about a couple of days ago when, it became a possibility that Green Bay wasn't going to match the offer. I mean, to ask this man to take a 50% pay cut is insane. There's no way you make this man take a 50% pay cut, especially because here's the thing. Green Bay does not make the playoffs if Aaron Jones is not as good as he was down the stretch. Those last 3 games plus the 2 playoff games, the reason why they even almost beat San Francisco is because of Aaron Jones. So you can't look at that fact and be like, oh, no, it's no whatever. But, yeah, so for me, it still hurt a little bit. Now, the team that I'm going to say is probably the most common team because you see memes all over the place. That's the Dallas Cowboys, y'all. Dallas Cowboys ain't done jack squat. Because here's the thing. What did Jerry Jones say a couple of weeks ago or a couple months ago? He said, we're going all in. Is this what all in looks like? Whew. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it in the wrong way, but is this what all in looks like? Maybe. And I don't tend to be a Dallas Cowboy expert per se. That's not my forte. But I feel like you needed a running back. You lose Pollard. For what we heard earlier, if it's true, they didn't even contact Derrick Henry, which is
Insane.
Which is insane.
Bananas.
And bananas.
Bonkers.
Bonkers. The man lives right up the street or something. They say he got a house in Texas. You know, I guess you can't trust the house thing nowadays. But yeah, you look at that. So okay, all right, cool. Then, you know, Josh Jacobs obviously goes to Green Bay. You lose out on all the running backs. I'm telling y'all right now, Zeke Elliott will be a Cowboy. It only makes sense. And I know that's not what people want to hear, but I just been feeling it. I mean, because here's the thing. He's going to go back home. It's cheaper. They're going to get him on the cheap. They probably get him for $6 or $7 million. If he goes anywhere else, I'll be shocked. But I really see him going back to Dallas. But that's not going to move the needle. So if you're Dallas and you know, all of these things like Lamonte, we just finished talking about before the show came on, and all that stuff starting to come up. There's a whole bunch of mess in Dallas, and it's just not getting things fixed. So for me, I'm a little bit sad because you know, when you say we're going all in, you expect them to go all in. And so
I mean, they did steal a linebacker. So far, I think that's been it though.
That's about it. Can y'all still hear me? Because I froze up.
Yeah, they took Kendricks from San Francisco, but that's been about it. So if that's what all in is like for Dallas, there's some problems.
Oh man, can y'all still can hear me? You said?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. And just be freezing up just because.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Terrible Verizon. Terrible. But yeah, I went with Dallas on that one. I just don't like all of that. I think they could have done a little bit better. But all right, so I want to talk about a team here that surprisingly has had another team that's had a really good offseason so far. That's the Tennessee Titans. What about the Tennessee Titans? You bring in Mason Rudolph to be your backup quarterback. Obviously, Levis is going to start. Tony Pollard, who we screamed about in the last episode on Legacy on Fire, and all we talked about is how good he could be. And he goes to Tennessee. Bam. All right. But the biggest signing of all this, Calvin Ridley. I didn't see that coming. I don't think you got Lamont. Did you see Calvin Ridley heading to Tennessee?
I did not. Surprised me.
What about you, Lamont? I mean, Lamont, James.
And,
go ahead,
Go ahead, LT. My fault.
Oh no! I was just saying I was surprised by it. You know, I wouldn't be surprised now that Beckham was released. I mean, you're getting receivers that I forgot about. Might as well bring him too.
That might as well. You got D-Hop down there. You might as well go ahead and bring him in the kitchen. Why not?
Hey,
okay.
I mean, look, for me personally, I was like, all right. I had some skin in the game because, you know, Jacksonville had to re-sign Ridley. Atlanta, that third-round pick goes to a 2. But then, you know, when they said the new league year was going to start, and if they re-sign at that point, it's only a third-rounder still. The fact that he, you know, chucked the deuces to them, went to a division rival, got the bag, and it's still in a non-state income tax state, hey, it's a win-win. And, you know, I get to laugh at the Jaguars who thought they was about to screw us over. Now they're left holding the bag. So, hey, you know, I love it.
How did they let him go? I mean, I felt like him and Trevor Lawrence had really good chemistry last year for the most part of the year. I was kind of surprised that they let him go. Again. Yeah. I mean, this man took a year and a half off and some change, right? He's been gone.
Yeah, you know, he had to get his mental straight. Then, you know, my man was out here making parlays instead of having Pookie and Ray do it. And then, you know, he got busted for that. Then he said he wanted to go home. My man went home, balled out, got us some compensation. And then it was like, all right, all they got to do is re-sign him when we get this second rounder. And Jacksonville's just like, oh, we're going to wait on that. And then Calvin was like, all right, y'all can wait if you want to. I'm going to do some out. Go somewhere else.
It's crazy. And now he's gone. And Tennessee, and this is my point earlier, I feel like the AFC South, even though it doesn't look crazy sexy on paper, has gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better. Baltimore Ravens, they signed Derrick Henry. This is a big deal. They needed a workhorse at running back so they could take the pressure off of Lamar. They do just that, but they also lose pieces within the division. I mean, they lost Patrick Queen. He went elsewhere. Geno Stone, who was at one point leading the league in interceptions last year, went to Cincinnati. It was interesting to see them lose those pieces on that team. Do y'all think that the Ravens have done enough to get better? James, I ask you first. Do you think the Ravens did enough to get better? I mean, King Henry's big time, but is that enough for them? Or what do they need to do? Because they're losing defensive pieces as we speak.
I would say, man, Baltimore's always been good. From time Ozzie Newsome was running the ship to now Eric DeCosta, Baltimore's always found a way to go out, sign free agents, and then they draft extremely well. So the pieces that they did lose in the offseason, I expect those guys to be replaced in the upcoming draft or with the leftover money they have as far as cap, that DeCosta goes out, finds bargains on the street, or possibly even some in-season trades. But Baltimore, I'm not worried. They're always competitive. They're always good. I look forward to be another year where we see that. And then you add to the fact that you have King Henry now in the backfield with Lamar Jackson. The Heisman Trophy formation's back. We got Derrick Henry. We got Lamar Jackson. I think somebody said, can you imagine the RPOs that Baltimore could now run? Because either way you should. Because either you now have to tackle a moving tank in Derrick Henry, or you got to hope you can catch Lamar Jackson. Neither one of them are good. Neither one of them are fun. So it's like pick your poison in a sense. Not to mention, Lamar still has Zay Flowers. He still got Mark Andrews. They still got Isaiah Likely. They'll probably add another receiver in the draft. Baltimore, again, they look pretty primed to be a dangerous team again, man, in the AFC.
What about you, Lamont? What are you thinking about Baltimore?
Right now, I got to say, I think they're my AFC pick for next year. I think adding Derrick Henry is huge. I do feel like losing Patrick Queen is huge because he does a lot for Baltimore in terms of stopping the running game. But when's the last time you can remember you can actually consistently run the ball in Baltimore? They've never played that, even though they don't have their defensive coordinator anymore. You know, they've never been a team. If you think that you're going to come into Baltimore and you're going to be able to run the ball effectively, probably got another thing coming. But Patrick Queen does go to Pittsburgh, and that was huge. And for my Steelers, for my family that are Steelers fans, I can tell you they were happy about that. But when they did see Derrick Henry go to Baltimore, you know, they expressed themselves, and it
was some size, bro.
Repeat that on.
They need Patrick Queen now.
I say, yeah, I'm about to say that those RPOs are going to be crazy. You know, but I think that the funniest part about it to me was seeing Isaiah Likely on Instagram or Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw that, but
no.
You know, for the guys that left divisions, you know, he had a lot to say. So then, you know, he had I think it was Patrick Queen. He was like, congratulations, my brother, you deserve it. I'm wishing you a 0-16 season next year because you know, he was the division rival. So then it was what was it, Stone, right? You know, Stone that went to the Bengals. He said, congratulations, my guy. I guess I have to delete you off the PlayStation Network now. and you know, that kind of stuff to me, absolutely hilarious. And you know, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did see Lamar's text where he was just telling everybody that he was dead to him after the whole Tiki Barber and Saquon thing. He just went on and just started he used it for Patrick Queen. He's like, yo, congratulations, brother. You're dead to me. Now, I may have not completely got the quote right, but he did. He told all the boys after they leaving that you're dead to me. But I think it's cool that they're able to just be proud of the guys and see them get their bag and all that good stuff. So that's a good deal. Oh, man. So speaking of, we talked about Russell earlier, talking about Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson is now Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I don't know how y'all feel if this is going to work. Now, obviously, Pittsburgh's only paying 1.2, so they don't have to worry about as much. James, do you think Russell is going to be what Pittsburgh needs to move along and maybe get back to where they, you know, I mean, obviously they made the playoffs, but can they get back to the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson?
I will say I do think Russell Wilson will be an upgrade over Kenny Two Gloves. Me myself, that two glove quarterback, man, I can't get with it. The fact that, you know, my whole offense will be neutralized by the fact that you lost your glove, or that there's a rip or a tear in your glove. Now you can't throw the ball. I mean, I can't get behind it. I can't support it. What I think they said so far in his career, Kenny Pickett has 13 touchdowns. We all saw how terrible Russ was his first year with the Broncos, and he still managed to get off 16 touchdowns. So I definitely feel like Russell Wilson's an upgrade over Kenny Pickett. From my experience, Arthur Smith, it's gonna be tricky to see how he runs the play calling there in Pittsburgh after seeing how he did it in Atlanta. Is it gonna be a lot of ground and pound? Is he gonna let Russell air it out? If somehow Two Gloves does beat out Russ, is he going to let him air it out? Is he going to have him handing off every other play? Is he going to use the actual weapons that are on the team? Are they going to throw it to George Pickens and Pat Fryermuth, or are they going to hit the third tight end over the middle to throw it to the fourth running back on some type of weird screenplay? I don't know. Arthur Smith be in some weird stuff sometimes. So him calling the plays, I don't know, bro. It might be a little weird. I will say the one thing I think that kind of hurt him, you did trade one of your top receivers at Deontay Johnson to Jacksonville for a backup corner or for a nickel cornerback. Typically not the best thing you want to do if you got a new quarterback coming to town. Get rid of one of your top targets. So we'll see what happens.
Well, they traded Deontay Jackson for was it Deontay Johnson
Deontay
Johnson
for Deontay Johnson for Dante Jackson.
For Dante Jackson, there you go. So,
DJ for DJ.
DJ for DJ in that mix. But Lamont, you know, obviously you've had the last 2 years to kind of spend with Russell. You know, obviously the experiment didn't work in Denver, but I mean, do you think he will be able to right the ship in Pittsburgh?
I don't think that's the organization for him to right the ship to. I mean, I think you look at what Pittsburgh does, and then you look at what Russell Wilson needs to do to succeed. I mean, he's a smaller quarterback that typically works better when he gets out of the pocket, right? And I think that, you know, that's not really Pittsburgh's game. They've always had a guy who can, you know, stand in there and throw it downfield. Now, you know, Russ is, you know, he's getting older and doesn't run as much, but at the same time, it's clear that when he extends plays is when he's successful, right? And I think that, you know, like James said, you getting rid of Deontay Johnson is probably your best moving target in terms of getting out of the pocket, right? That's the guy that you can quick hit, you know, that can make a quick move out of the slot. He can be your guy when you're rolling out. So I think that doesn't really make too much sense. And it was the Panthers that he went to, right? I think Deontay Johnson went to the Panthers in the trade. So
yeah,
I mean, I just don't know. I don't like that. Like, but to his point, to James's point, he is an upgrade from Kenny Pickett, right? You got experience on your side. You got somebody for the low. You know, you didn't pay a lot because Denver's doing that already. And you know,
I'm sorry, man.
He might be able to move the ball. He might be able to. And it was, I forgot it's Natalie. That's the Bruno Mars song I was thinking of. Natalie ran away. It
hit you all at once. Look,
that's my guy. But you know, he tried, and you know, fortunately, you know, Broncos country, let's ride has turned into Broncos country, let's get back on the horse, because it's been kind of rough for us. But you know, Russ is, listen, I don't think it's a bad move by Pittsburgh, but I think there's better out there. Justin Fields, just saying.
Justin Fields. That's another
let's
topic.
Talk about that next.
Yeah, let's actually. I'm glad you brought that up. So Justin Fields is kind of in a.
Yes.
What are we going to do? Because here's all the quarterbacks. Limbo. Yeah, he's in a limbo spot because all the teams that I think a lot of people thought that the first two teams that people thought he may go to, Pittsburgh and then Atlanta, they're off the board. Okay. I don't see them trading him to Minnesota. Obviously, they picked up Sam Darnold. So, what do they do with Justin Fields? Is he staying? Because if he stays, then who? That means if he's staying, if you're Washington, you don't even need. You can just kind of sit there and wait for your pick. If he's staying, if he's not staying, then like, what do we do with Justin Fields here, James? Like, what do we do with Justin Fields?
Honestly, Justin Fields has been the one, I guess, anomaly of the offseason because everybody just knew he was going to be traded shortly after the combine in Indianapolis at the beginning of free agency. Everybody just thought Justin Fields, he's going to be on the move. He's one of the top quarterback prospects available this offseason. And he was linked to Atlanta. He was linked to Pittsburgh. He's been linked to Las Vegas. He's been linked at multiple different places. And yet we've seen all those teams fill the void at quarterback with a different option. Of course, we saw Atlanta go after Kirk Cousins. We saw Pittsburgh signing Russell Wilson. We saw Minnesota, who just lost Kirk Cousins, go out and get a Sam Darnold. We saw the Las Vegas Raiders adding a Gardner Minshew, and it kind of leads you to believe at this point, well, what's going on with Justin Fields? Is there something that these NFL teams know that the rest of us don't, because everybody just knew he was going to be this commodity in the offseason, and it just hasn't yielded dividends. If I told you that Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell would be traded this offseason before Justin Fields was, you'd tell me I was crazy. Or you'd at least told me that, oh, well, Ridder went to Chicago in a trade exchange for Justin Fields. And it's like, no, that's not the case. So I don't know what it is. He has some sort of stigma on him that maybe a Chicago funk that he can't wash off. But the fact that he's still a Chicago Bear, it's a little crazy right now.
Yeah, it's weird. Lamont, I mean, you see this, and this is kind of bad news for Justin Fields, because if he doesn't land in a place where he could be a starter at, he's going to be a backup quarterback next year. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think Justin Fields is a backup quarterback. He's a starter in this league, and I don't care what anybody says. You can say, "Oh, what about this?" No, the guy's a starter. He's just been in Chicago. That's if fans and buts about it. I think this guy can start in this league, and y'all can yell at me about that. But Lamont, what happens here with Justin?
I'm 100% with you. And I was talking today, like we do at the barbershop, shout out Steve-O. James, I know you know who he is. We were talking about that. We were talking about Justin Fields. And I don't know if it's whether or not he isn't the pick for teams versus is Chicago asking too much or sitting on this because they're in the best position, right? Maybe they wanted to see everything, unfold before they dealt Justin Fields. Maybe their teams have come to them and called them up and they've been like, you know what? We're just not ready, or that's just not enough. You got a team that's got the 1st and 9th pick, right? They hold the cards, right? Like they can ask for what they want. They're in prime position to get what they want. Maybe it's them that's kind of holding on to this as a security blanket and trying to see if they can milk it for all it's worth. Maybe they want a team to get desperate, but like James said, teams they're just going about their business and fulfilling that slot. The Raiders was a big one for them to go out and get a Minshew, kind of, for Pittsburgh to get a Russell Wilson, kind of shut the blinds a little bit on Justin Fields. And now, we don't know who or if anybody else is looking. And I think that, if you're a team like Minnesota, yeah, you signed Darnold. What do you do? Like, what are you willing to give up to get a Justin Fields? Because like we all agreed, it is an immediate upgrade, right? We've seen teams like, the Rams go and get their quarterback, and get a Matt Stafford and win the Super Bowl, right? We've seen it. So like, how much of this are you invested in, and what is a team willing to do to get Justin Fields, I think is the question.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this scenario now, like, there's only a couple places in my mind I'm trying to think like that. They're in the market for a quarterback they don't really have, and it's New England, the Commanders. I mean, they just signed Mariota, but as much as I love Marcus, Marcus is not going to start there in Washington. But then you also have those young guys at quarterback, so it's just like that are coming into the draft, and the way this is moving. And I would still throw the Raiders and Minnesota in that mix because of who you picked up at quarterback. So they're obviously, in my mind, mentally, we're going to draft a QB just based off of that. I would even say the same thing about Washington. You're going to draft a QB. You get a security blanket in Mariota. They go get Gardner Minshew, who did his thing last year and almost got the Colts in the playoffs despite everything and, whatever. And then Sam Darnold has had a year in San Francisco. So, and he should do fine with Kevin McConnell because they all in that, they all know each other or whatever, or they all know the offenses and the offenses kind of connect. I don't know where he goes. And if he's not in Chicago, I don't know where he goes. I would still say if I'm Washington, I would really take a look. If you're going to trade him, I would really take a look. I mean, I thought that they should have went veteran quarterback. Actually, I'm probably one of the few people that said I thought they should have went after Russell, because I think you go after Russell, you get him for 1 year, you draft you a young quarterback, have him sit there, learn behind Russell as much as you can. If Russell's great, you keep him going. You let the young quarterback grow. And I know a lot of people don't think that's sexy nowadays to let your quarterback sit and wait. But then I present you Jordan Love. And that says, hey, look, it can happen. And I know that's not the sexy thing, but I'm telling you guys, like, I just don't know where he goes from here. James, where would you send him? Or where do you think he should go? If Chicago's going to trade him, what do you think would be the best spot for him?
So, all right, spinning the block. If I'm Justin Fields, one place I would like to see him go, but it's going to be tough, I wouldn't mind him being traded to the Los Angeles Rams to kind of back up and sit behind Matthew Stafford.
It's a good
Here's
spot.
the thing, though. Here's the problem. This past season in Chicago, who's his offensive coordinator? Luke Getsy. Luke
Oh
Getsy,
no.
who's now with the Las Vegas Raiders. Well, Luke Getsy runs that Shanahan McVay system. And it seems almost like Getsy gave up on him at some point this season.
Mhm.
And the whole reason why we thought that, Chicago's going to be done with him in the first place. Now, maybe it's Getsy can't coach, or maybe it's Fields isn't able to grasp that system. But when you look around the league and you start to see all these new coaches being hired, or these new offensive coordinators being hired, they're being plucked from that Shanahan McVay system. And
Right.
if he didn't pan out in one location in that system, I feel like that's another knock that people are using against him to say, well, maybe he's not a fit here because of the system we run, because of the scheme that we run. He's not a schematic fit. But somehow, if I'm Les Snead and Sean McVay, if I can get my hands on Justin Fields and sit him behind Matthew Stafford, let him groom for a couple seasons, and then when Matthew is ready to step away or when it's time to just move on, have Fields replace him, I feel like that could be a viable option. I'll let LT go, and then we'll go back to say what I think another thing hurting him is. But I want to hear from LT real quick first. Where do you think a viable option is?
I'll tell you what, my vision for Justin Fields at this point is a similar situation, right? I think that what if the New York Giants are ready to move on from Daniel Jones and they don't have an answer, right? Now, they did just get Drew Lock there, so that did happen. What if they move Daniel Jones and or Drew Lock, over to Chicago, so they kind of either give them a security blanket type deal. Obviously, they can still draft their quarterback if they want, and you get a Justin Fields, a new place to start. You got Daboll there, who I'm pretty sure is on the hot seat, right? Maybe his stint in New York is not working there well. Maybe he needs a way to ensure his job or a new project to work with. He worked with a Josh Allen who was a running quarterback, who he had to really work with to find the throws and develop an offense. You got a Justin Fields right there for the taking, right? Like, what if that is the new, the revamp in New York? And that's the thing that sparks their offense. You lose out on a Saquon Barkley. You don't have the sexy running back there. You got Devin Singletary, but I mean, obviously they need a spark, right? What if Justin Fields can be that?
It's a tough one. I'm gonna throw a team at y'all, and I know James. I'm gonna send it back to you after this. I'm gonna throw a team at y'all. So you ain't gonna like this, James. But what about the Saints? I know it's wild, but here's the thing: the Derek Carr experience really didn't work out the way they were hoping it would work out. Now that could be Dennis Allen. that could be Dennis Allen, but it just didn't work out. Okay, you did just get rid of Jameis Winston. You bring him in, like you said, even as a backup. If things don't work out with Carr, maybe you go to Fields. So on and so on. I think that might be an interesting spot for him. But just looking at veteran quarterbacks on the league that are just kind of like on that teetering spot, it's kind of a tough deal. Like you said, unless he's going somewhere, he's going to end up being the backup. I think if he wants to start, Washington, Denver, places that just don't have that quarterback, and it may potentially even draft a quarterback, that's going to be the best chance, I think, for him to even have a chance to even play it, to even start at this point.
I mean, honestly, man, it's a little wild. Go ahead, LT.
Oh no, you're good. I just said I like it.
I was gonna say, honestly, man, it's a little wild because if you look even further at it, I don't know if New Orleans is an option because if it doesn't work this season, more than likely Carr is released or traded, and Dennis Allen's fired, and so you have another coach who's now coming in. Fields is going into his last year or possibly free agency. And he's in another system now. He's being released or let go or have to go somewhere else. But he has to learn another system. So I think New Orleans is probably off the table for that reason, unless there's an injury to Carr and they need somebody that can come in right away, provide a spark, win some games. I would say one team that's, I don't know if they've been linked to him, but why haven't they picked up the phone yet? The Denver Broncos, again. you're Sean Payton. You need a quarterback. You're sitting at 12. Is it viable for you to go out and get a Justin Fields? I don't know if we've heard anything about Fields to Denver. And, that could be another possibility. That could be another opening. I feel like what really hurts Fields is just the timing of all this. He's going into year 4 of his rookie contract, and nobody is more than likely going to pick up that 5th-year option. So you're talking about trading assets for a guy that's going to be a 1-year rental that you might not even keep long term. I feel like that definitely hurts his market, and that's kind of hurting the Bears' return right now. Because honestly, I feel like if he was just outright released from his contract, I'm sure he'd have had suitors by now lined up where he could possibly go to compete for a job. But due to the fact he's still under that rookie contract and the Bears want top assets for him, I feel like that's hurting his trade market.
Yeah.
It's been rumored.
We'll see what happens, man, but it's crazy.
Go ahead, Lamont.
No, I just said it has been rumored in Denver, and I think that's the crazy part is the more things are unfolding and the Field story is not right. Like people don't know what Denver wants to do. It obviously is like James said, is a thought to everyone who's looking on. So I mean, the rumors are heating up in Denver, but of course we don't know what their plans are, and we don't know if anything they're doing is working right now, to be honest.
Facts. We're gonna find out on that. So one last team I want to talk about, and before we move on to put out the fire, the Washington Commanders, brand new GM, and as a young folks, I feel like he's been cooking. As the young folks like to say out there, he's been cooking. Because here's the thing: you look at this team, he didn't sign a lot of long-term deals, a lot of 1-year deals with veteran players, pretty much like prove-it deals. Hey, we're going to sign you, give you an opportunity here. Got a great defensive coach in Dan Quinn, knows his stuff on that end. Okay, James, you have your experiences. So that makes me wonder, like, how good did they sign Mariota to a 1-year deal? Okay. They bring in Ertz in on a 1-year deal. They bring in Wagner on a 1-year deal, Jeremy Chin on a 1-year deal. They bring in Brandon McManus, who's been a really good kicker in the league for a long time, 1-year deal. Austin Eckler, 2 years. So when you look at this Commanders team, I feel like they've done a really good job of and they had a lot. They lost a lot of pieces. Curtis Samuel went to Buffalo. We've seen Howell now in Seattle. People that were stalwarts in that team last year are just gone now. Logan Thomas is still out there as a free agent. Nick Gates is gone. They just got rid of everything. So James, do you like what Washington has done so far, or do you need to see more?
I do like some of the additions Washington's made. Dan Quinn being a defensive guy, he's going to add his side of the ball. He brought in Dorrance Armstrong from Dallas to help on that defensive front. He signed a couple of Panthers and Frankie Louvu and Jeremy Chin. I do like the addition of Austin Eckler to pair with Brian Robinson Jr. Losing Samuels, I think, is tough, but they might be able to replace him in the draft, get a younger guy at a cheaper dollar that make that same production. I think the sneaky move that could pay out in Washington's favor, though, is them actually moving Sam Howell to Seattle to pick up that 3rd and that 5th.
Yes.
Because the prize of the offseason is Caleb Williams. And right now, Chicago sits at 1, Washington sitting at 2. Well, the Commanders, they went out, they brought in Cliff Kingsbury. They brought in Cliff Kingsbury to be the offensive coordinator. Well, his most recent experience is being the offensive coordinator at USC and coaching up Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is also a native of Washington, D.C. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see those additional picks that Washington just acquired from Seattle, if they package that with the Bears to move up a spot and draft their quarterback of the future in Caleb Williams. Williams is happy because he's going home. He gets to work with a familiar OC and Cliff Kingsbury. And we know Dan Quinn can definitely coach up some defense. That could be their match made in heaven. And a shifty offset of Sam Howell could possibly yield dividends on that. We'll see if Chicago does deal in the number 1 pick. But, I mean, that could be a real possibility at this point.
Lamont, thoughts on Washington's offseason so far?
Yeah, I I do like what they're doing, and typically when we see NFC East teams, a lot of times we see them in free agency swinging for the fences, right? They're like you know, the equivalent to the Yankees and in baseball, to where it's nothing but big names, it's nothing but big signings. It's guys who may have done a lot of things for another team, but they may be dying down, and Washington just comes in and swoops in, and now it's a sexy name, but you don't necessarily know how it's going to go with the team. This time, this GM looks like he's taking his time, right, with building this team. Like you said, none of these are big, huge deals, but they're names that catch notice. You think about a Bobby Wagner, and a Austin Eckler, who's done a lot of things. I mean, like James said, you bring in Doris Armstrong. I like Cleveland Farrell, right? That's a hometown kid that's from Virginia. He's at was playing very well at San Francisco. You get him off a defense that's been prospering pretty good. You got Dante Fowler, and then you got re-signs like, you may have lost your receiver to Buffalo, but then you get Jamison Crowder, right? They still re-signed him. He's coming back. So,
Jameson had a good year last year.
Right. I like it. So, I mean, I think they're doing well. I mean, obviously they've still got a ways to go, but I like the moves that they've made.
Now, I will say this. The biggest thing about Washington last year, offensive line. And they have not done a bad job, in my opinion, so far, rebuilding that offensive line. Now, the holdovers from that offensive line, Sam Cosmi had a really good year last year. It may not look like it when you see what happened most of the time, but a lot of those sacks were not his fault. Sam Cosmi was one of the best in the league, holding up the quarterback under those circumstances. So you bring Cosmi back. You bring in the Pro Bowler from Dallas, Tyler, and I'm not going to destroy last name, Biadasz.
Biadasz.
Biadasz is a Pro Bowler. So now you bring in a Pro Bowl center. Smart move. Then you go and bring in Al-Giletti from Kansas City. I could have destroyed that too. Al-Giletti from Kansas City.
Yeah.
Right. So now you pair him with his former teammate, Andrew Wiley. So now you got Super Bowl pedigree with an all-pro guy in that mix. And I like the way they're starting to build that offensive line. So you got Cosmi, you got those two guys. I think they're doing a really good job there. So you got 3 or 4 guys on the offensive line. Still got to get another piece there. That's the biggest part for them. They have to fix that offensive line. That is gimme. So I think they've done a decent job with that so far. I absolutely love the Bobby Wagner move. I just love the Bobby Wagner move. And I think Austin Eckler is going to be nice because, it's been a rough this last year. I think a lot of it had to do with contract issues. And, sometimes when things are not clicking with the organization, they just don't work. It's a fresh start. He's back with Anthony Lynn. I think that's going to be huge for him. Anthony Lynn, you knew how to work him. He knew how to use him. And I'm telling you, that's why I like what Washington's done so far. All right, fellas. And Jeremy Chin. Like Jeremy Chin's a really nice move.
Yeah.
Yep. 1-year deal. Doesn't hurt. There's a lot of these. Like I said, if this doesn't go well, guess what? Next year you start over again. And you still got plenty of money. This is brilliantly done by Washington. Good job, Adam Peters. Good job. Before we move on to put out the fire, was there any more guys that y'all wanted to talk about before we move on to put out the fire? Thinking about it. It's somebody we probably forgot. It's somebody we probably forgot in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, but free agency is still ongoing, so we'll have time next week.
There's always next week too. All right, let's go to put out the fire.
Fire, fire, burn on. Fire, 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 burn on. Fire, 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 legacy on fire.
Look at the video actually working this time, at least on my end. Everybody else probably saw it, but it is what it is. All right, y'all, it's time to put out the fire on a topic of your choosing. So, Lamonte, I'll start with you first, man. Go ahead and put out the fire. What's making you feel decent? What's balling your blood? What you got going on here, brother?
I'm going to take this one to the NCAA. Specifically, we've had the talks of football and Nick Saban, all the way to Congress talking about, the whole NIL deals and treating college football players like employees. His statement was that he believes they should get paid. He doesn't believe they should be treated like employees. And I'm going to say this. At what point are you're asking these grown men, because after 18, they're grown. All right. You're asking them to come in. You tell them when to get up, how hard to work, how much to prepare, and they're literally dedicating their lives to this sport, and they're not employees, but the organizations are reeking in, as we've seen, millions and billions of dollars. Like you have to they have to be employees. There's no other, and even more than that, I'll take it a step further. There has to be another governing body besides the NCAA, because they got it wrong, right? For so many years they've got it wrong, and it was clear that developing these student athletes was not a priority as much as the bottom line, right? And now that we've gotten here, we've gotten to this point, um, they shouldn't get their power back in that. I don't believe that. I believe that even if they decide to restructure some type of deal, the NCAA should not be the governing body, because clearly they don't have the the well-being of these student athletes in mind. Not as much as their bottom dollar. And I don't care if things change, or if they should change. I'm open to that. I just don't think the NCAA should be the governing body of that. And I'll say that.
All right. James, we head to you, man. Time for you to put out the fire, brother.
This one a little bit lighter than LT situation. I want to give a quick shout out to the VCU Rams men's basketball team, making it to the semifinals in the A10 tournament, trying to punch their way to the big tournament here in March. Really excited. Love what we've been seeing this season so far from the Rams. Keep up the good work. Coach Odom's first season with VCU, since taking over for Coach Rhodes. I'm excited, man. Hopefully, we get to see the Rams finish the job, punch that ticket, and go have some fun in March this year, man.
I love it. It's funny because my my put out the fire was going to be kind of in the same dream, but it's more of a shout out than it is, tear down. Last week, Lamont, we got an opportunity to do something amazing. 9 games that we broadcasted over a 4-day span, 5 days total. Lamont was there for every day. I got a chance I was there every day, but Lamont was there every day for the whole time. Shout out to Russ Taliaferro, our guy Russ. You're in our prayers, brother. We love you so much. Also, Rob Johnson, Justice Miller. Killed it last week. So I want to give a shout out to them. Also, shout out to Joe Dillard Jr. down there at the ACC women's tournament, along with our guy Arturo Jones. They killed it last week. Congratulations to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish winning the women's tournament last week. Well, guess what? Joe ain't done yet. Joe's in D.C. as we speak, watching Duke losing to NC State. And he's been up there all week enjoying that tournament with his guys, Isaiah Massey. And then we also have Brandon. I'm trying to destroy last name, but Guy Brandon. And as well, Arturo will be joining them on Friday. So you got all of that going on. And it's just been really cool to see, the network growing on that end. And it was just a fun time last week. Shout out to the Henrico Sports and Entertainment Authority. Shout out to the Henrico Sports and Events Center. Yeah, I got it right this time, Lamont. So shout out to them for inviting us in and really giving us a chance to just enjoy that. And shout out to the Richmond women's basketball team. What a season. 17-0 technically in Richmond this year. 19-0 in Richmond because they beat VCU. Well, 18-0 because they beat VCU once, and then they beat them at home. So, what a season for Coach Russell and that group to win 29 games, to go 29-5, and get their 4th NCAA appearance of all time. So, I wanted to give a shout out to them. They've done so much for this network that I can't even begin to tell you. Them VCU. I can go on and on about UVA and all those. So the ACC, the Atlantic 10, we love you guys. Thank you for letting us be a part of that. So that's kind of massive. I'm piggybacking off James on that, but I felt his sentiments 1,000%. And yes, I'm going to say it. Go Rams. Because we saw Richmond go down today to St. Joe's, and I'm like, what is going on there? So, yeah, we do support the teams that have supported us throughout the time frame. So shout out to them. That is my put out the fire. All right, everybody, that is it. That's episode 62 of Legacy on Fire. We'll be back next week on the 21st to bring you episode 63 of Legacy on Fire. It has been an honor to come to you to talk free agency. I'm pretty sure we'll be talking the next week because I don't think it's done yet. I think we got more trades and all that good stuff. We got the draft coming up, the draft show, all that fun stuff. So before we get off, Lamar, anything you want to say?
Nah, man. Listen, it's always a good time, to talk with you guys and chat it up, especially around this time, NFL draft and NFL free agency. Y'all just, hug your loved ones tight, and love you guys.
All right, James, anything you want to say before we go?
Piggyback off LT, man. Great to be back with the fellas. Really enjoy it. Free agency is here. NFL offseason is almost exciting as regular season. And even as we get more and more close to the draft, the excitement just builds and grows, man. So, looking forward to it. And hey, always good being here with the boys, man.
It's always good, always good. Last shout out. Got to give a shout out to Monster Minutes and Becca Cottingham. Great job on the last couple of weeks of the show. If y'all missing out, Richmond is coming up in a couple of weeks, so she'll be there with Jay Quimby. They're gonna make the magic happen. So y'all make sure y'all check that out. Also, shout out to Christina Rulo, who did the Magic's game last night, the Magic versus the Knicks. She's been out there running around like a track star. She's done some really good work lately. Some great work with the youth at the 000 Road, not down the road. She's done some really good work. I'm having a mind blank, but she's done a lot of good work. she's been running around a lot. So I mean, she's been doing really good things. And just shout out to the team as a whole. Truly, everybody's been working hard, and I can truly appreciate all the hard work that has been going down. Well, that is it, everybody. Legacy on Fire, episode 62 is in the books. We'll be back next week for episode 63. I'm Darrell Owens, James Brown, Lamont Thomas. Until next time.